All right, guys. Um, Jeff Sessions is back in the news. This time, Sessions has answered a whole bunch of questions that was submitted to him, maybe during one of his hearings or maybe afterwards. Tom Angel, you might have heard of. He is a very important activist and writer in the marijuana movement. And if you don't know about him, maybe you should find out about him. And if you are interested in like really knowing about weed news, because I only cover a few stories here and there. I'm not on every story. I'm not everywhere doing everything, man. I got a life. I got shit I got to do. But I like to cover stories about Michigan because I live there, and I like to cover stories about America because I live there, and I like to cover stories about marijuana because that's what I do. That's what my channel's about. But all jokes aside, I like to be funny if I can, and I'd like to crack some jokes sometimes. This Jeff Sessions guy, turns out he's not really any kind of a joke. Now, I don't want to make anybody freak out, but as you've seen so far, and just a couple of days in, Trump has already turned shit on its head with executive orders. He has staffed his administration with some of the most insane corporate bankster, like, whoa, like he got rid of the swamp monsters and then hired the dinosaurs. I mean, literally the dinosaurs. You got T-Rex and Mad Dog. I mean, these guys are crazy. But Jeff Sessions, Jeff Sessions has some answers for us. And I'm getting this from Johnny Green at Weed News. And like I said, Tom Angel is the one that originally I got this from. But I like to read Johnny Green. He's a good reporter. I like his angle. Shouts out to Johnny Green. Shouts out to Tom. And if you want to know about these updates like I do, you can get his newsletter. Subscribe to that. I'll put the link in the description below. So anyway, Jeff Sessions is giving us some answers, and I already said all that. But here's some answers. While I'm generally familiar with the Cole Memorandum, I'm not privy to any internal Department of Justice data regarding the effectiveness and value of policies contained within that memorandum. Now, the Cole Memorandum, if you remember, is the one talking about the money available for prosecuting cases and even kicking in doors or any of that stuff. All right, so he's like, I will certainly review and evaluate those policies, including the original justifications for the memorandums, as well as any relevant data to how circumstances may have changed or how they may change in the future. That sounds pretty neutral. Like, he's just going to look at it, make sure everything made sense and was legal and constitutional or whatever, and then maybe see if anything changed, see if there's any reason why there should be a reevaluation of this. And as you will see later in the video, as far as I know, he relies on propaganda and Reefer madness for his information on how well the marijuana programs are rolling out across the country in the laboratories of democracy that we call states. All right. Now, as far as the question of enforcing federal law, or basically the question I remember was, are you going to go after sick people in states where medical marijuana is allowed? And he basically said, I will not commit to enforcing federal law. Whether an arrest, and that was his short answer back then when the hearing happened. And it kind of raised a lot of eyebrows, like, I understand what he's saying. He's like, if a situation arises, I don't care if this person is a medical patient or not. If they're growing like 2,000 plants and they're not even supposed to be growing 10 plants, then I can understand where he's not going to commit to not bringing the case against that person on a federal level. And it will set precedences, and it will kind of barge in, the feds barging back in on the whole enforcement game of their law, which is Schedule 1, by the way. You all know that. So whether an arrest and investigation of an individual who may be violating the law is appropriate is a determination made in individual cases based on sometimes unique circumstances surrounding those cases, as well as the resources available at the time. And the resources thing is a big part of the Cole memo and the other memos that talk about how we don't really have the money for this shit. We are sequestered. The government went under the sequestration, and they did all these automatic budget cuts to all these agencies and organizations. And ever since that's happened, they've had to bend over backwards to try to justify any enforcement of marijuana on a federal level. But yeah, now it's, you know, basically like he said, in the case-to-case situation, looking into it might even require a budget check. So again, this sounds kind of neutral, don't sound like anything new. A recent federal court ruling that a congressional rider prevents the Justice Department from going after people complying with state medical marijuana laws, quote, is relatively recent, and I am not familiar with how other courts may have interpreted the relevant appropriations language or the Ninth Circuit's opinion. As an emerging issue, that is one that will need to be closely evaluated in light of all relevant laws and facts. I will conduct such a review. Of course, medical marijuana use is a small part of the growing commercial marijuana industry. So again, he's referring to medical marijuana, and he's also referring to the idea in the Ninth Circuit opinion that that basically, if they're not breaking any laws in their state under their state's medical marijuana program, then why interfere? Don't interfere. We don't have the money to interfere. The states can handle people breaking their own laws on their own. It would look a little weird to do. So again, he sounds a little bit neutral on this, but at the end he throws in this wrench where he's like, well, medical marijuana, that's just a small part of the commercial marijuana industry. So he might be saying that maybe the Ninth Circuit's opinion doesn't, you know, it only applies to medical marijuana. It kind of sounds like he's leaning that way on this one. And I wouldn't be surprised if, when he says on an emerging issue, this is one that will need to be closely evaluated in the light of all relevant laws and facts. Yeah. And he will conduct such a review. And like I just said, he seems to be using reefer madness and propaganda. That's the kind of way, that's the research he does. So if he hires someone else to do the research, you're talking about hiring somebody like a Chris Christie to go do the research, you know, somebody that's definitely going to compile some shitty data about medical and recreational marijuana or whatever, you know. But I'm just speculating, and I'm just giving you the whoa, over the top paranoid shit that could happen, because people are like, oh, be apprehensive, see what happens. All right, we've already seen a couple of moves that Trump's made and a couple of orders that he's sent out. And not just Trump, but there's states all over the country right now that must have got a memo from the lobby group ALEC, because everywhere you look, they're trying to make it so protesters can get fined or arrested for even gathering. I mean, they're trying to crack down on protests big time right now. So when they say, oh, just don't be out there with your fear tactics and scaremongering, I'm not trying to scaremonger. I'm just telling you, hey, don't be surprised if A happens, but it probably won't, because based on this language, he's tiptoeing around glass here, man. You're talking about most of the country has there's only 12 states that has 0 laws to protect you if you're using medical marijuana. Only 12. And I think those all have some kind of CBD allowance. All right. On the good people don't smoke marijuana question, Jeff says, my words have been grossly mischaracterized and taken out of context. Now, that's the way that politicians always get out of their little bullshit. You know, they want to make a tough statement when they make their comments and they make their statements. And then later on, when someone calls them out for being a hard ass, they're like, oh, that's out of context. That was way out. You mischaracterized that one big time, man. You made me sound like the butcher when I was just the baker. And then the rest of his statement is, I was discussing the value of treating people for using dangerous and illegal drugs like marijuana and the context in which treatment is successful. I'm going to do something different here that I don't normally do, but we're going to bring that video up. I cut it a little bit so it's not like super long, and we're already long, so this is going to be most of the rest of the video. In fact, you know what? We're not going to do that. If you want to watch me finish these answers off, I'm going to do that for you, and then after that, I'm going to run through that video, and I'm going to kill it, because it's right, just completely full of just complete nonsense and rhetoric and reefer madness, and you know, it needs to be examined. So when he says it's taken out of context and all this shit, this is what we hear from every politician ever. You know, like their donors or the guys, that the people that really want them to do something that you don't want are going to, like, you know, they're going to want them to go out there and take a hard stand against something. And when they do that, and then they're on record for doing it, it's going to come back and bite them in the ass later. Because politics is weird. There's really no hard stance on anything that you could take without looking like an extremist. Now, you might say, hey, Brandon, you take a fucking pretty hard stance on marijuana legalization. Well, that's because if you look at why it was made illegal in the first place, you would understand why. And when you learn that, you're like, well, then why the fuck is it still illegal? And that's what I'm trying to, that's the whole core and the heart and the matter. That's why I make this channel. That's why I do these videos. Because I don't understand why, when you realize why it was made illegal, and then you realize it's medicine, and then you realize it's an industry behind hemp, and then you realize it actually, you know, yeah, it was made illegal through completely racist reasons, and why they still want it illegal is to fill up jail cells and prisons and give the police extra judicial power to just take away all your constitutional rights just because they find a little fucking marijuana on you. So yeah, I'm a little bit fucking extreme about my view on marijuana legalization. Other than that, I take you with a grain of salt. He was not discussing the value of treating people for using dangerous and illegal drugs, by the way. And he did bunch marijuana in with the dangerous drugs, the illegal ones. And then whenever someone mentioned farmies, never mind, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's finish this up. Quote, I echo Attorney General Lynch's comments on marijuana being illegal and commit, as she did, to enforcing federal law with respect to marijuana, although the exact balance of enforcement priorities is an ever-changing determination based on the circumstances and resources available at the time. Again, he breaks that out. So again, he's saying, on a Tuesday afternoon, when there's not shit-outs going on, and we don't have to go down to the public square and crack a bunch of protesters in the skull, yeah, we might kick your fucking door in for breaking federal marijuana laws, even if you're in a medical marijuana state and you're complying with your state law. So that's a thing, man. I'm just saying that's the most extreme thing, but it's a thing. When I say these are kind of neutral sounding, that's because he leaves the door open, and it could swing open either way. And it could swing open this way and you can keep doing what you're doing, no problem. Or it could swing open the other way and you don't know what the fuck's going to happen. And all you could do is wait and see what else is said. And this, the confirmation hasn't happened yet, so we don't even know if he's the guy yet. And finally, the bottom line from Johnny Green, Sessions is still being very guarded in discussing the Trump administration's intentions towards state marijuana laws. Probably the most important revelation is about how he is going to review and evaluate the Cole memo that gives states a roadmap for how to avoid federal interference with their cannabis laws. Now, I believe the Cole memo has to be signed every, I believe, year. Maybe it's quicker than that, but I'm pretty sure at least once a year, the Attorney General has to sign the memo again and it can be adjusted and it can be updated. I mean, it's a living document. It could just be thrown away and a new one written, which is kind of what I thought was going to happen. But we might see when the first chance comes, when he has a chance to update this memo. So again, people, I'm going to take all this with a grain of salt and say again that this all sounds pretty neutral if you believe what he's saying as he's saying it. But he is a politician, so every time he's on the public stage saying something, he's got to put on the right face, the right mask to maintain integrity so that people don't think he's a complete moron or a dumbass. Now, we're about to roll this video. And when you see this, you might think that he's a complete moron and dumbass.
But in the past, U.S. attorneys, the drug czar, has opposed it. Does President Obama oppose states adopting legalization of marijuana?
Right here, he's basically just...
I don't know exactly what positions he's taken with respect to Colorado and Washington.
That's a terrible comment. That the United States attorney that works for the President of the United States does not know whether he opposes or favors legalization of marijuana. He certainly has said some things that indicate he thinks it's a very little problem. But these data show that it is. So you got this huge increase in marijuana-related emergency room visits. this is as obvious as night following day. You make more marijuana, more available. You basically...
Again, these statistics he's pulling from this Colorado study was found to be just rife with bullshitty numbers. Like, okay, so you went from 9 to 11. That means you had an increase of 60% or something like that. That's roughly what he's talking about. 9 people, 11 people, that's not that many fucking emergency room visits. So fuck you, Sessions. Get your fucking data from real shit.
Say it's not very dangerous and that young people have a right to participate with it, and others, older people do too. You're going to have more problems, wouldn't you agree?
I certainly think that increases in marijuana use are bad, and for public health, I totally agree with that. And I think there's been an increase recently. Certainly here out in Sacramento, my district, our focus is on opioid and heroin increase, which has been quite an unfortunate
I wish this
upturn
guy had
in
more
overdose,
balls,
prescription pills. I know in the Sacramento area, just in the last 10 days, we've had 9 people die from fentanyl overdoses, and that's something which we are.
Heroin or just fentanyl?
No, not heroin. They are apparently prescription drugs that have been laced with fentanyl, and that is something that we've been spending sort of 24/7 the last
huge
2
issue,
weeks.
But this from my experience in dealing with this, we need to set a nationwide understanding about the problem. This is very real. Are you aware that the American Medical Association just last year issued a report that hammered this idea that marijuana is not dangerous, and they were particularly concerned about the mental impacts it has on young people?
Are you aware, Jeff Sessions, that fucking report is bullshit and there's no science behind it whatsoever? It's an anecdotal study that relies on the fact that all the fucking people that have this schizophrenic reaction to marijuana, guess what? They were schizophrenic in the first place. And they were using marijuana to self-medicate because guess what? It's the fucking best thing to use to medicate for most fucking mental problems, period.
What I want to just say to you and to
just
those
fucking Sessions guy is an idiot.
It's far more important than just the details of.
He's so fucking old. Like, what do you know, dude? Do you even read anything that is relevant about marijuana, or
Colorado
you just fucking read propaganda?
Was one of the leading states that started the movement to suggest that marijuana is not dangerous.
Actually, marijuana is not dangerous. That's true, you fucking idiot. Show me the statistics that prove otherwise. There's never been a fucking death from marijuana, so that alone tells me it's not dangerous. But this shit you're talking about, no one ever said that. No one put out a campaign saying marijuana is not dangerous. I believe the exact campaign was marijuana is safer than alcohol, which is still true, and it will always be true. It was always true before. Fuck you.
And we're going to find it, in my opinion, ripple throughout
Your opinion
the entire
ain't fucking
American
worth a shit.
Citizenry, and we're going to see more marijuana use.
Nope.
And it's not going to be good.
That's
we're going to see more
false.
other drug use, illegal drug use,
not true.
Also, which is damaging.
What else?
I mean, we need grown-ups in charge in Washington to say marijuana is not the kind of thing that ought to be legalized. It ought not to be minimized, that it's, in fact, a very real danger. You can see the accidents, traffic deaths related to marijuana.
Again, the statistics that he's using showing the accident rates going up when marijuana was legalized are a part of the way that the ebb and flow of traffic statistics always go. And the increase wasn't really that much. And there was no proof that linked the increase in traffic deaths in Colorado to marijuana use. Nothing. Nothing ever connected marijuana use to a traffic fatality ever. Ever. Marijuana use on its own, never a traffic death attributed directly to the user of marijuana driving the car, crashing into someone. Oh, you got a case? Well, then enlighten me. Show me that case, because I've never fucking heard it. I study this shit. Mr. Sessions, you are fucking using the wrong data. And unfortunately, that's not going to change, guys. He's going to continue to use the wrong data for these fucking bullshit things he's saying. And now when he says that marijuana use is going to increase and all the drugs that are more dangerous than that's the use is going to increase there too. Well, the numbers are in, and that's bullshit. The numbers are in all over the world. Anywhere where marijuana is decriminalized, legalized, or any of that other shit, drug use overall goes down. All drugs. And teen use, down. So, again, you're wrong. You're using bullshit fucking lies written on paper. We call that reefer madness to fucking prove points that you don't like marijuana. Big fucking deal. Grow the fuck up.
I jumped 20%. These are the kind of things that we're going to see throughout the country. And you'll see cocaine and heroin increase more than it would have.
Heroin increases more than it would have because, A, we run heroin. We fucking own Afghanistan. We fucking run the heroin trade all the way to here. And the CIA fucking sells the heroin basically to the dope. I mean, are you fucking... how stupid is anybody to think that the heroin problem has anything to do with marijuana? When is... You know what, Sessions? You're just too fucking old. You're way too old. The propaganda you're using is way too fucking, like, been dusty and... It's been dusted off and the dust fell back on it and people looked at it and they were like, no, I don't think that's going to work the third time around. This is like the 8th time around and you're still fucking pushing this shit? There's no fucking connection between marijuana and heroin, you fucking idiot. Now, when you're talking about opioids and opiates that are prescribed by doctors, that's what leads people to heroin use, not fucking marijuana. So stop that dumbass gateway shithead reefer madness from the fucking 1940s or wherever the fuck it came from. No one ever believed it, and no one believes it now. And we got the fucking internet. We know what the fuck.
Had we not talked about it? Well,
stupid.
Is there any sense that Colorado might reevaluate what they've done?
No, they're making shitloads of money. I know that there is a lot of
discussion back and forth between the U.S. Attorney's Office and the state authorities in Colorado
this guy don't know a fucking thing.
Issues that we're seeing, issues that we're concerned about.
Really?
And I understand that the state authorities have been receptive to our concerns. I don't know the details of what they're doing about them, but citing some of the data that Senator Grassley presented earlier, we're concerned about that data, and we're talking to Colorado about it. I know the same is true in California.
I hope you'll speak out. You're able, as a citizen of Colorado, to say you think this is dangerous. I work with it every day. I see the danger and damage it does.
But he don't fucking see the danger and damage that it does, and neither do you. Why? Because there is no danger and there is no damage. We're talking about marijuana, man. Or are you talking about heroin still?
And I think the president needs to speak out. I think one of his great failures, it's been obvious to me, his lax treatment and comments on marijuana.
Oh, it is marijuana. I thought you were talking about hard drugs. That's what you said earlier this week in that little Q&A thing when you gave us those answers. Remember that? You said that you were talking about the harder drugs and marijuana as well, the treatment. We need treatment. Why don't you just say things like straight through, like, oh, we need treatment, not jail. Maybe people wouldn't be so scared of your fucking creepy old ass.
It's been obvious. It reverses 20 years almost of hostility to drugs. It begun really when Nancy Reagan
20 years of Nancy Reagan style reefer madness is going right out the fucking window. Because that shit is all garbage, you idiot. Are you a fucking moron? Nobody believed that Nancy Reagan just say no bullshit. All those commercials, this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. You know what, Sessions? I've been smoking weed since about that commercial, when that commercial came out. You know what? I'm way fucking smarter than you. I know what the fuck I'm talking about because I know how to read. I know how to look at data. I know how to look at the data that actually is data compiled from studies, not bullshit propaganda organizations like the fucking National Institute on Health or the National Institute on Drug Addiction. Are you kidding me? You got nothing, dude. You're using the worst kind of fucking propaganda to prove points that nobody in this whole world still clings on to. But go ahead, asshole.
Great accomplishment. We moved this
such
country
a great
from
accomplishment.
50% of high school seniors.
Now, instead of locking up all your daughters and sons for marijuana. We can't do that anymore. We need to get back to that.
Using a drug, marijuana or other drug, to less than half that.
You're talking about
Lives
marijuana.
Were saved.
There's no
Young
other drug
futures
that fits
were
into
saved.
that fucking stack.
And we go back into this path, we're going to regret it. And you got to have leadership.
You're going to regret what? Locking people up for marijuana? The fucking message you send by doing that is way worse than the message you send by saying that, oh, don't do marijuana because it might lead to heroin. Fuck you.
The top. And I think the drug czar and the DEA.
The drug czar is a fucking shill. The DEA is basically the drug dealers.
But I'm not sure the president does. I'm not sure the message is getting down to the prosecutors. I can't tell you how concerning it is for me.
Listen to this. Listen to him. He can't tell you how concerning it is to me. Listen to him. This is what he's really concerned about, people.
Emotionally and personally.
Emotionally and personally.
The possibility that we would reverse the progress that we've made and let it slip away from us. Lives will be impacted. Families will be broken up. Children will be damaged.
Lives will be impacted. Families will be broken up. Children will be damaged. We'll take our fucking chances, dickhead, because that's already what fucking happens when you lock people up for fucking drugs in general. End this whole fucking nightmare of what you just said. Lives will be impacted. Not if you don't get arrested for drugs. Families will be broken up. Not if daddy don't go away for drugs. And children will be damaged. Children are a lot less damaged when both parents are there. Children are a lot less damaged when daddy ain't in prison for 10 fucking years. Children are a lot less damaged when marijuana is not a crime and they can get their medicine without fucking crossing state lines and shit.
Because of the difficulties their parents have, and people may be psychologically impacted the rest of their life.
Psychologically impacted for the rest of their lives from smoking marijuana? Do you know how stupid you fucking sound, you fucking dinosaur?
With marijuana. And if they go on to more serious drugs, which tends to happen.
It does not tend to happen, dude. Look at this guy. Look at him. He looks like he's on more serious drugs right now. Like the kind that you get in little orange bottles. The kind that make you fucking goofy and fucking forget shit. I'm sorry I'm swearing so much, people, but this guy is just pissing me right off.
Deny it if you want to, but it tends to happen. There'll be even greater.
I am going to deny it.
Comment that, as I was talking to somebody who's experiencing this recently, it was a prevention movement that really was so positive and it led to this decline.
So what he's saying is by preventing people from doing drugs, you're going to make it so people, you know, you had this decline from 50% of high school kids to 25%. Now, I don't believe any of his numbers. And those ones are especially fucked. Those numbers have no basis in reality whatsoever. So please, if you got those numbers, Google them to me because I couldn't find them. But anyway, he's saying that, you know, because we prevented people from doing marijuana, other drugs weren't done and lives weren't damaged and families weren't broken up. Yeah, they were because you fucking arrested somebody for marijuana, idiot.
The creating of knowledge that this drug is dangerous.
What?
You cannot play with it. It's not funny. It's not something to laugh about. And trying to send that message with clarity that good cannot play with it. The creating of knowledge that this drug is dangerous. You cannot play with it. It's not funny. It's not something to laugh about.
So what he just said is that what they basically did is create this knowledge. And then everything after that he said is all bullshit. That's the propaganda. They created this knowledge and then we're taking it down piece by piece with fucking truth and reality and facts and hard data. You can't fucking deny.
And trying to send that message with clarity that good people don't smoke marijuana. And the result of that is to give that away and make it socially acceptable creates the demand, increased demand that results in people being addicted or impacted adversely. I just hope that we can get our thoughts
to
together on it.
marijuana.
I believe
Adversely
Department of Justice
impacted.
needs to be clear. I believe the president really needs to reassert some leadership on this. I think it's really serious.
Wow. And that's it. That's what you get with Jeff Sessions. You get him telling you some bold-faced bullshit over and over. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm about to go on a little trip out of town for a couple days, so if I don't make any videos while I'm on the road, whatever, I'll try. But if anything really crazy happens, I might just go ahead and do some kind of impromptu shit. But meanwhile, keep fighting the good fight. Peep that link below and check out Tom Angel's daily newsletter. I don't know if it's daily exactly. I know I get a lot of them. So it's basically anytime something happens, and lately it's been daily. And that's it.